Hello, it's Russian Whips again, and today I want to speak about some differences between Russians and largely the rest of the world. Okay, I don't mean to sound proud or nationalistic. I just want to dwell a little bit on some differences which anybody who's come to Russia is bound to observe and to experience. And I want to start with some examples, you know, which come to mind from my everyday experience at one of the manufacturing plants here in Russia. So I work at the, factory which has been around for the last 30, 40 years, and some time ago it was purchased by multinational company, and this multinational company is, you know, come and trying to, well, conform the local workforce to the standards which they use, internationally, and they have hard time doing that. Why would that be? Well, it's the operation is the same, the parts is the same, the process is the same, but somehow it doesn't work out the same as, say, in France and, Turkey, or in, somewhere in Mexico. I don't know. Russians don't seem to grasp it. I don't know. Well, it could seem this way, but people who have worked here long enough, they have a different opinion. It's not that Russians are not smart. Russians are smart, and they just are not easily conformed to the standards, because the idea of conforming to some standards is completely foreign to a Russian mind. Russian mind cannot be contained but something as narrow as a written standard. If you write a person, okay, come, open your machine, check if all necessary parts are there, check if everything is there, and start working, do X times this operation, then, do X around times another operation, change some tools, make some maintenance, do it again. So to Russian, it sounds like they're being a robot. And by the way, that's exactly what it means. This instruction is meant to make human a robot. But Russians detest that. They just, I don't know, uh, they don't like to be reduced to a robot. So they just don't care about this instruction, and they do as they want, or as is convenient to them, because a written instruction and the law is one thing, and the practice and the way they do it is another thing. It's two realities. So Russians have lived in two realities for a long, long time. So there has been a law, and there has been some, expectation of those in authority concerning the way they should live, and there was a practice like they actually lived. And it has been this way for centuries, and there has always been, two lives. One is life of the ruling class. Well, ruling class is, well, in one way, some management, and the masses, the simple people, the ordinary folks. And the ordinary folks would make it look like they conform to the, those requirements of the ones in power, but on the other hand, they would do as was convenient to them, provided they would not get in trouble doing that. So that's the key thing. As long as a Russian will not, as long as Russian doesn't, think he'll get in trouble doing something, something that he thinks reasonable to do, he will continue to do it. It doesn't matter how much you speak, how much you just try to convince him. Well, by the way, if he is convinced that something must makes sense to him, then he probably will do it, unless it's goes counter some other reason. But if you try just to have authority of paper or of some procedure of some something which is written, and I mean Russians, most Russians wouldn't care. I mean, yes, it is written, and they would say, yeah, it's written on something on the fence too. I mean, some profanities usually are written on fences, and but it doesn't mean that I should absorb it. I should observe it. There is not much respect for written instructions. On the other hand, there is respect for common sense and something which is convenient, something which would make sense to Russian soul. I mean, to Russian guy or girl. I mean, if they want to do something which is convenient to them, they will just go ahead and do it when nobody sees. Well, yes, if somebody is going to come after them for that, and somebody is just going to give them a hard time, they will make pretend that they do it your way, but you can be sure that when you're not watching, they're going to do it their way. And the only way to change it is to make sure they really, really understand why why they should do it a certain way, and you have to convince them that it's for their benefit, for the benefit of everybody, including them, and it's better way actually, which they may have their own opinion about. Yeah, that's tricky. I understand that. That's why most of the foreign companies and multinational companies have hard time really getting their operations the same way as working the same way as everywhere in the world, because it's not easy to make people do some some trivial and meaningless work. Yes, people will do it, but they want to add a human touch to that. Sorry, but we Russians are this way, you know. And if you found this video helpful, I welcome your questions and welcome your comments here. I will probably do a couple of more videos like that. But I need your questions, guys, because something comes to my mind, and I have some thoughts concerning my observations in life. But I would really appreciate if you ask questions, if you ask something you really want to know about Russia or the Russian people or the Russian traditions. By the way, since I started talking about the law, yeah, the law in Russia is harsh, but there is important thing. The law is harsh, but the application of the law is not as harsh. And people treat the law with a lot of creativity, I would say. And for them, there is a law and there is a fairness. And people may go ahead and do something illegal as long as they perceive it's fair and reasonable. And the only concern is not getting caught. It's the same as traffic regulations, paying taxes, not paying taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes, I understand. But Russian business largely is, has been, avoiding most of the taxes most of the times, because it's impossible in Russia to run business paying all taxes imposed on the business by government. So maybe now it's for some larger companies, it makes more sense to pay taxes. because the penalties would be so severe. But there is always a way. So in everyday life, it translates into, you know, people applying their own thinking, their own you know, understanding of how things should be. Most of the times it doesn't conflict with the law, but if it does, okay. The important thing is not to get caught. Just keep that in mind when you deal with the Russians. Russians are very driven by idea of fair play, fairness, treatment, treating them fair with respect, and I think it's great actually. But there are some you know, peculiar things like this tradition of, you know, two of classes, and this idea of common people and some ruling class. Yeah, and for common people, it was important, you know, to be left alone, not you know, for authorities not to interfere with their everyday life. So they would make pretend they respect and obey, but their only concern was to be left alone and let them do what they want. So there is not no huge respect of authorities, I'm sorry to say, and you know, people will smile to you and think, okay, leave me alone, go away. I want to do what I want to do, really. So, and you have to win respect of the people. If they respect you, if they appreciate you, the way you treat them, the story changes. But I will speak about this next time. Hi, it's been Andre with Russian Whips, and subscribe and write me your questions. Bye bye.